And Mets fan Payton Soicher joins us now. Payton, congratulations on the ALCS.
Oh, I thank you so much. It's I kind of inherited the Mets. Never really spent more than 5 minutes in Queens, but that was fun to watch nonetheless.
Have you been to Citi Field?
I haven't been to the new Citi Field, no.
Oh.
Or the new Met Stadium, no. We went to the new Yankee Stadium a couple times, but not the new one. But I've heard nothing but good things.
You got to get there. It's one of my favorite. Like comparing it to Yankee Stadium, which I went to Citi Field on Thursday and Yankee Stadium on Saturday or Friday. Maybe it was Wednesday, but it was so back-to-back days. And the new Yankee Stadium, the Yankee Stadium's awesome, monuments, all that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I'm a Red Sox fan, so it's there's several of these guys with these monuments you stole from us.
Sure, but, just being polite, yeah.
Yeah. It's fine. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But Citi Field is a very modernish ballpark, and it's very cool. And we had seats in a level where there was a bar and a concession, like a higher end concession, like fancier one right behind us.
Gotcha.
So, and we were kind of behind home plate. So it was really cool seats. And, it was great. So I had a blast at Citi Field.
I would love to. Yeah. I got to go.
Other than the subway was not as fun.
That's part of the experience, man.
Yeah. No.
You don't get part of it. You get the whole thing.
Yeah. When you take your, at the time, 68-year-old mother to
better.
Queens, she got a little nervous, and she's a well-worn traveler. But she was like, "Where do we go?" I'm like, "Mom, follow the arrows. We got to get from the 7 to the 9. We're gonna go to the 7. We're gonna get off, and we're gonna get on the 9. It's fine. We're good.
We're just you don't just get to take an Uber up. No. You got to do it the right way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't even want to try to do that after a Mets game. And it was they were terrible. It was Mets and Pirates. It was an awful game. Nobody was there. But even still, it's crowded.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ton of people.
Yeah. Ton of people. So, Payton, last week, total chaos.
Oh my gosh.
Total chaos. And it's changed so many things. And so this obviously not anticipated. So this is not a week where you can say hey, we crushed it, because nobody would have in these circumstances. But the Vandy game, Tennessee loses. There's so much that happens. So do you watch these things kind of happen and react to them in real time?
Oh my gosh. You should have seen my face at 1 a.m. watching Miami come back. I had done a video for our newsletter. I was going to post it, and I was like, okay, cool. That was just when the fourth quarter starting, and I'm like, okay, I'll go with this assumption that Miami just doesn't look like they have it. And just the color coming out of my face watching, knowing it's so late, I want to go to sleep, and I'm going to have to redo this entire video because of where Miami was going to drop in this whole scenario. And does Berkeley make it in now? And, it just ruined everything. So yes, having pizza with the wife and kids and watching Vandy, really pull it off. And you're just it's so much fun to watch it in real time and see, okay, this is really what's going to be happening with these rankings. And as you mentioned, I was nervous, and most weekends I overanalyze it a little bit by the end of the day, and I just think, I don't think this algorithm got anything right. There's just no way. And it comes out every weekend, and I'm like, that was great. And so last weekend was the first weekend I'm like, I have no idea what to expect here. And there's so much madness, and the algorithm did pretty amazing. I mean, it got Texas and Ohio State right, which I think everyone could have figured. But Miami, Alabama, and Tennessee, 6, 7, 8, the algorithm was predicting in real time that's where they were going to be landing. We were one off on Mizzou. They landed at 21. The algorithm had them at 20. I was pretty happy with what was going on. The biggest miss that they kind of had was it had just Texas A&M, I think, just way too high. They had the algorithm had Texas A&M at 9. Now, one of the interesting things about that, and I was tweeting and posting in real time, that's way too high. Do not look at a 25-9 movement. But the way that Tennessee or Texas A&M moved up to 15 and Mizzou dropped really low, I don't think anyone was really taking Mizzou as a serious like top 10 contender, even the AP poll. So why are you putting them there in the first place? So that was kind of the initial reaction. But overall, I was quite impressed with what it was able to accomplish.
Yeah, this week coming up, and it's weird because this is the week you would expect to be some shakeups because of some of the big matchups. Particularly if Penn State, who's number 4 right now, loses to USC, and I should have texted you this, but if Penn State loses to USC, that's probably the biggest top 5 shakeup that could happen, right?
Well, it's a top 5 shakeup that could potentially happen. I mean, do not ever underestimate the Red River rivalry. I mean, those games get wacky fast. So I hesitate to just say, yeah, Texas is going to hold on to that 1 seed. But even our algorithm, which we can dive in a little bit more here in a second, Oregon and Ohio State, the winner of that game is most likely going to take number 1, unless it's Oregon. Oregon with a win only moves up to number 2 in our algorithm. Texas holds on to that number 1 spot. So there is a good shakeup within that top 5. But I mean, something that I find a little bit more interesting with that Penn State USC matchup, just because I'm a total nerd, have we ever had a situation where a team has gone 11 unranked and then potential top 12, top 15 in a matter of 3 weeks? Like, if they don't have that loss to Wisconsin, USC is probably a top 10 team. And if they beat, if they go ahead and beat Penn State, they would probably be in the top 7, top 6, maybe. We can do a what if analysis on that if we're actually interested in it. But, that's the interesting thing to me, is where does USC line up in all of this if they can pull off that upset?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about USC and Penn State right now. You have it 27-23, right, on the site. So let's just flip that. Let's flip that and see what happens. I mean, like, it probably doesn't matter what the score is if USC wins the game. Like, it's going to affect it. But just for the purposes of us getting an answer, just flip the score.
You want me to share my screen, or you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Great. Let's go ahead and share. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see it?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so we're going to go to rankings right now. We're going to go to the what if simulation, www.rankingsrightnow.com. And as Paul mentioned, we are going to flip the score of this. We're going to make this 23. Was it 27? Was that right?
Yeah.
Looked at way too many numbers today. Okay, great. 27-23. Right here, it has a reminder of what the change is about to happen. We're interested in the AP top 25. So we're going to go ahead and run the simulation here. And when we do that, whoa. Okay, here we are. Now, let's see if we can find both. So Penn State drops to 9. Does USC make it in? I don't believe right here, 11. See, this is what I'm talking about. That would be nuts to me if they just went right back to where they were after that catastrophic game against Wisconsin. That's a big flip-flop out of nowhere. So I really don't know if even the AP poll really knows where to handle USC in this situation, right? If USC wins this game, you got to put them back in. You can't just leave them out and just say, well, they'll get some votes. No, I think Penn State drops a little bit. USC has the resume of a tough competition this year. They got to go back to that top 12.
Wow. I mean, with 2 losses, which would be over, let's see, 2 undefeated teams in BYU and Iowa State. At least 2. Hold on. Is there any of the other one? Army is also undefeated, so that would hurt. It hurts their chances. Yeah. Right. So yeah, that's right.
This is the one that, and I wrote this in our newsletter. This is the one that fascinates me the most. That USC, what are you going to do with them at the end of the day? The algorithm has them. You're beating the number 4 team in the country. You got to be taken seriously as a top contender. And there's no reason to think why they shouldn't. So I don't know with that one. That's a strange scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let's talk about Red River, since listen, it's 90 miles away from here. Red River is a game that's always weird. It's a 14.5 point spread, which I get it. I've had multiple people explain to me why. I just have watched this game enough to know that I don't believe that.
No, you can't.
Look, I'm a Red Sox fan, so I believe in curses. I believe in I believe in sports voodoo and things, and there's certain things that I know. Like I know that one of the reasons that, and the Kansas State people got a list, that Texas ran away from the Big 12 was Kansas State was befuddling them. They could never go on any, they beat them once and then Kansas State would beat them 3 times.
Right.
Like when they played Kansas State, it got weird. And then I know, back in the day, Nebraska, when they would play Missouri, it would get weird. They won that one game, if you remember, Davis, and the ball bounced off his foot.
Right, that's right.
Like all that, it gets weird. Florida State and Georgia Tech is always weird.
Yeah.
It's always weird. This one is the king of that.
Yes,
you
were
king
correct.
of it, where you could have one team just completely, like Charlie Strong had a team that was essentially flat on their face, and he won the game. And you
had the Caleb Williams scenario a couple years ago. I love college football. I didn't know who this guy was. Yeah. I didn't know what he was capable of. Same thing with Tua a couple of years ago when he just came off the bench at halftime in the national championship game. You're like, what are they doing? And then 3 throws in, you're like, who is this guy? And why was he on the bench? Spencer Rattler was the quarterback before Caleb Wright came in for that game. Just weird momentum shifts happen in this scenario. You can't just look away for 5 seconds.
Yeah. Absolutely not. So let's run the scenario that Oklahoma wins the game. And if they do that, it would probably mean to me that this is in the,
I think it would be close. I think it would be 48, 45, something like that.
Let's just say it gets in a shootout, 48,
right.
45.
I mean, who wouldn't want that game? That game would be amazing. Okay, so these guys would have 45. They would have 48. Let's confirm it. Run the simulation. So just to double check that we're only looking at this change in the game. Okay, cool. So in this scenario, Oklahoma up to 7, Texas down to 4. Now, one of the other interesting things that I've seen from our simulations, if we go ahead and look at Texas, for example, so we run 10,000 simulations for each week, and we look at the results of what would happen in these different types of scenarios. We look at historical college football scores. We assign them randomly, all those different types of things. So ESPN FBI is giving Texas an 85% chance. Once again, got to look at that with a grain of salt and kind of breathe for a second. But this is the only time I've ever seen this situation. There is a situation where it's rare. It's only 2% of the time if you add the numbers together. But if Texas loses, there is a 15% chance that they only drop to 2. So that is a very bizarre scenario, right? There's also a scenario where if they win, they stay at 2, they are 1 right now. So there's a situation where if they win, they can move to 2, and if they lose, they can move to 2. I've never seen this one before. So I found that very interesting. This game is just, once again, it brings out the weirdness out of things. But I think right in that scenario, you lose. If it's a good loss, if it's a crazy shootout, people might be just saying that's Red River. That what are you going to do? Hey, we don't actually discount Texas being a good team. We think that they're still an elite team. They might have lost. We're only going to punish them a little bit because that's just what that weekend brings.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, you have Oklahoma State falling all the way out of the rank. Oklahoma State's not ranked. They're not even close anymore. Oklahoma falling all the way out of the rankings because that would be their second loss. Which is even still kind of big to me, considering they would lose to the number 1 team in the country.
Exactly.
The game they were expected to lose. Yeah.
So one of the crazy things that I've seen throughout this year is the algorithm has a tough time with those 14 to 17 ranked teams. In that pocket, for whatever reason, if you lose, you are gone. Now, that is something for me to really address at the end of this year when we're tweaking the algorithms and trying to learn from this whole year, which has been fantastic and gotten really great feedback of what actually matters to people. A lot of people have brought up, hey, this algorithm in that middle group, if you lose, you shouldn't be kicked out immediately, right? So like if OU loses, the algorithm has a simulation of only less than 1% of staying in the top 25. That seems a little aggressive to me. I would expect them maybe to be in that 20 to 25 range. But as you mentioned, you have a couple teams, Army, Navy, that don't have any losses. And they're kind of sitting there waiting to knock on the door, get into that top 25. Do you keep a 2-loss Oklahoma team in over a unbeaten Army team, an unbeaten Navy team? I'm not sure. So our algorithm doesn't believe they would be kept in, but we'll have to see where things lie.
Yeah. All right. Last thing before we let you go. LSU and Ole Miss is very interesting in that's another titan of a game. It doesn't appear that like Kansas State and Colorado Kansas. We'll ask about that one. 2 more. LSU and Ole Miss. You have LSU dropping all the way out if they lose.
Same type of scenario.
Same type of scenario. Should they win, what happens?
Great. Let's go ahead.
And that would be another 48-45 if that
sure. I
love
happens. That. Perfect. Let's do it. So let's go ahead and look for that LSU game right here. Let's do. Yeah. Death Valley at night. I don't. That's not going to be a straightforward game by any means. Okay. LSU into the top 10. Ole Miss out. Once again, that area right in there, it punishes teams a lot. Now, Ole Miss now with 2 losses, same exact scenario, right? They were ranked so high that I think it's a little bit surprising to people to see them drop that far. Alabama's in a pretty similar situation there. Alabama, if you throw 2 losses in there, Tennessee, if you throw 2 losses in there, it's tough to really make that argument to some of these 1-loss programs. Hey, these teams are really above you. Now, we can all use our eyeballs. That's what they're used. That's why we have them. And we can kind of say, I really don't think a 2-loss Alabama team is worse than SMU. It's tough to make that argument. But the way that the AP poll works and how our algorithms are trained on this AP poll, that is the way that it is. It's looking like right now is Ole Miss would drop out. LSU becomes a top 10 team.
All right. We got another quote. We have 2 more to do.
Let's do it.
Let's do Kansas State. Let's flip the Kansas State and Colorado score.
Okay. So I heard you on your last segment.
Yeah.
You sounded a little too confident for me. So just to recap for everybody, as of right now, Kansas State is projected to win 30-26. You said, and I quote, if Colorado wins, they're for sure ranked. Well, sir, I've already run this game. This algorithm is not that convinced that as you are. So let's go ahead and change that. Let's just flip the score 26-30. Run the simulation. And if we look in here now, you have Kansas State dropping out of the top 25. I don't think anyone argues with that. You don't see CU in here. They're still not ranked. You have Nebraska at 25. And if you want to get into the super duper logical scenario of, well, Nebraska beat CU, and so they're better than them, and they're better than them, and they're better than them. But whatever, they're not in. However, I found that to be a little bit surprising. So we have the College Football Selection Committee coming up here in week 10 that they're going to release their rankings. And I was curious, well, what do they think is actually going to be the case here? So here's the current playoff committee's rankings based off of this weekend, right? And it's not nearly as dramatic as we've seen on the AP poll. Look, LSU with a loss only drops to 22, right? Texas A&M staying there. Oklahoma still in the top 25. There's definitely not as big of swings when it comes to this playoff committee, which makes a little bit more sense. So if we go ahead and change that game back and we make this 26-30, confirm it. Let's run it for the College Football Selection Committee. And there's CU's still not in there. But if we go ahead and look at all teams, CU is right here at 29. So right on that edge. And if we also looked at, see, you can't say these things in front of me, especially a math nerd. I'll go all in on you, right?
Yeah.
CU only got 3 AP votes last week, right?
Yeah.
There's all these teams that are favored above them. Now, this is once again assuming that all of nature goes completely smooth. There's just a slight breeze in the air. There's no major upsets. That never happens. So we will see if that actually is the case. But if you just change that one outcome, CU still is not making that top 25 yet.
Okay. All right. We've got a little longer than I had planned, but it's fine. We can run over on the show today a little bit. Okay. Iowa State and West Virginia. What happens if West Virginia beats Iowa State?
Great. So we're back on the AP poll rankings. So we had a fun little tangent there for a second. So Iowa State, let's find them. You want to just flip the score, make it easy?
Yeah.
How many losses does West Virginia have now?
2.
Yeah. Okay, here you go. Iowa State dropping out, right? They're lurking, right? That 33, I don't take as a hard 33. I view that as like, hey, somewhere in the 25 to 40 range, somewhere that they're still getting some AP votes, but not a lot. And if we just look at all of the teams instead of the top 25 and we look for West Virginia only moves up to number 82. They like the algorithm likes a lot of other teams ahead of West Virginia. So West Virginia's in no man's land. So, Iowa State's really getting the punishment out of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the perception, obviously, of the Big 12, too, I'm sure, playing into that with the voters. One more. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt this week. Bracket Cat asked for this.
Okay, great. Sorry.
If they lose to South Carolina, do they suffer the same fate as other teams not named Alabama?
Okay, let's go ahead.
Because they have that win over Georgia.
Okay.
So.
Here we go. All right, we're going to reset all the scores. So we talked about in the newsletter that we ran this morning, we did talk about this scenario, and I want to get out of all the teams, only the top 25. Let's go ahead. We also did it with Tennessee. Tennessee losing another one, really bad. Alabama losing, I would think that one would I would say that would be kind of low scoring. Again, maybe something like 27-21. I don't think that's going to become a shootout. No. But pick your own. Go to the website, have fun, play around with it a little bit. If Alabama loses that game, they're 22.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's
South
as close as
South Carolina has it in them too, by the way. They did not look good last week against Ole Miss, but they have it in them. They had a really great season up until that last game. It's not unreasonable to think. Okay.
All right. Well, go to the website, rankingsrightnow.com, create your account, play around, fall into a rankings hole. Payton Soicher, I mean, I'll just say for your benefit, let's go Mets. I have no dog in this hunt right now. I like
good ball, man. I just want good ball.
You and I share one thing. We do not want the Yankees to win.
No, not right now. No.
Like, that's what we can definitely agree on. Good baseball. Yankees winning is bad for society.
Yeah, good ball. Let it go 7 games. I just want good ball, man.
Exactly. All right. Payton Soicher, rankingsrightnow.com.